At number 10 is the Punch Dimension. This probably wins the award for the most uncomfortable and painful universe on this list, unless you're Cyclops, in which case it's actually probably the most useful, but still pretty painful, I'd imagine. In fact, the Punch Dimension is where Cyclops gets all of his power from, because instead of him actually generating all his power from within, his eyes are actually known to be doorways to this dimension, which he can summon kinetic energy out of on command. But if anyone else were to travel there, they'd probably die immediately. Honestly, Cyclops probably would too. To think that there's just a dimension out there that consists of pure concentrated kinetic energy and nothing else is definitely bizarre, if not terrifying. At number 9 is Marvel Noir. On Earth 90214, all of the most popular heroes get their own retellings through the lens of the 1920s and 1930s era. And although I think this is a really cool idea, some of the characters that get their own noir makeovers just come off as a bit bizarre. A few of them give me that uncanny feeling where I can't tell whether the steampunk aesthetic is really cool for them or just doesn't work as smoothly as others, like the noir Iron Man or the pirate portrayal of Namor. But overall, we do end up with Spider-Man Noir, who has become a well-known alternate version of the hero, especially after being voiced by Nicolas Cage in the Into the Spider-Verse animated film. Don't get me wrong, I actually think this universe is really cool, but it's also very weird, hence why it's made it onto this list. At number 8, we have the Pocket Universe. This one is definitely a bizarre concept that really puts things into perspective on and off the page. Franklin Richards, son of Reed Richards and the Invisible Woman, has some really powerful abilities, and in one instance in particular, he shows what he's capable of in a really impressive way. The young boy harnesses the dimensions of space, time, and reality to develop his very own universe, which he creates to be small enough to fit in his own pocket, hence the name. And although we don't see everything that goes on inside this fabricated pocket universe, we can assume that no matter what, it's gotta be a weird existence. Especially when a ball of lint in the boy's pocket is probably the size of thousands of solar systems put together.
Number 7. Earth 17 Superman. On Earth 17, superheroes are a product of government experiments. The Superman of this universe, Overman, was the first, with the other superheroes being spawns of his DNA. Now that may be weird, but that ain't the weird part. He also doesn't really seem like a villain yet, does he? Well, after contracting a disease, contracting a disease from another person, yes, like that kind of disease, he goes insane and destroys the Justice League and reduces his world to rubble. He then gets his filthy paws on a doomsday boom boom that he intends to use on Earth 17 and wipe it out. The Crisis on Infinite Earths destroyed this reality, just like DC tried to destroy such a naughty Superman story. Even having different iterations of Overmans who were different, like an Overman who became allied with the Axis powers in World War II. But the internet never forgets DC Comics, and people like me exist to remind everyone of the things you published into this world. I am sorry, sort of. Thanks for the content. Number 6. Mr. Mxyzptlk. Look, I talked about Batmite when discussing heroes, and he wasn't even really a hero, so how can I not mention the first fifth dimensional imp in this video? Plus he's got a fun name. Mr. Mxyzptlk is a reality warping imp obsessed with Superman, who, just like his rival Batmite did with Batman, simply seeks to annoy the hell out of Superman and just prove he is smarter than him. Which is good, because he has a level of power that in other hands could cause the entire end of the multiverse. More on that later though. He can do almost anything imaginable if he wishes it. And his only weakness really is being convinced or tricked into saying his name backwards to send him back to the 5th dimension, which, if you're trying to say it correctly, is honestly a superpower in and of itself. Clitopizixum. I got it. Number 5. Emperor Joker. Mr. Mxyzptlk has an extreme level of power, like I said. Also, like I said, if this power fell into the wrong hands, it could be potentially reality ending. Now, what hands could be worse than the psychotic hands of Batman's arch nemesis, the Joker? Well, that's exactly who gets the power in the Emperor Joker storyline. Mr. Mix gets bored and wants to give Joker 1% of his power, just to see the tricks Joker is able to pull pull off. But instead, the Joker tricks Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving him 99.9% of his power instead. Joker uses this power to rewrite all of reality to become his sick, twisted dream world. He eats the whole population of China out of a Chinese food container box. He keeps everyone stuck in a time loop, including Batman, who he introduces to the afterlife over and over every day forever. Oh, and he also turned Flash into a slow-moving Abyss Man. Superman, the Spectre, and Mr. Mxyzptlk, being the only ones who can remember the former world, tried to do something about this all-powerful Joker. But that's just the problem. He is all-powerful. He destroys all of reality, but he can't bring himself to destroy Batman fully. And because of this, he loses control of his power, allowing the Spectre and Mr. Mix to steal it back and fix all of reality. But this story it's pretty nuts. Number 4. Condiment King. When the villainous Condiment King came on the scene, it was literally on the scene, as he appeared in the animated Batman TV show from 1992. One of the best, honestly. Condiment King was Buddy Stantler, a comedian who was brainwashed by the Joker into becoming a villain who wields condiment squirters and viciously horrible puns. I knew you'd catch up to me sooner or later. How I've relished this meeting. Come, Batman, let's see if you can cut the mustard. Diabolical stuff like that. The puns get even worse in the comics, with his real name becoming a pun on its own. Mitchell Mayo. He isn't taken seriously by anyone. His weapons don't actually project his condiments at a speed fast enough to do anyone harm, but they sure are inconvenient, leaving nasty stains in your superhero costume. On the other hand, he does potentially have the ability to be able to cause anaphylactic shock if he is battling someone with an allergy, right?
At number 3 is the Marvel Apes universe. Featured in the Marvel Apes miniseries, this alternate universe naturally features ape people versions of all the heroes we know and love, and everybody else for that matter. Basically, apes roam the earth, and even the Avengers have changed their name to suit the environment, being widely known as the Ape-Vengers. But if you think that's weird, it gets even more bizarre when we learn that Captain America is secretly a vampire who drinks the blood of his enemies. And then eventually it's further revealed that it was never Captain America in the first place, but a Nazi vampire who shapeshifted into Cap years ago after drinking his blood. I honestly don't know what the writers were thinking with this one, but at least it was able to rank high on this list. That's one thing it's got going for itself. At number 2 is the universe where Aunt May is bitten by the radioactive spider. In a short feature story of What If issue 23, we see what it would be like if Aunt May were to take up the mantle of Spider-Man with web-slinging powers and all. And the result is something so bizarre that I've already covered this universe on at least 3 other lists so far. It just stands out. And not necessarily for the right reasons, always. I think they sort of lose me when Aunt May starts using the dough from a bread loaf she's baking as a weapon, but this is one of the best examples of the fun that writers can have with the concept of a multiverse, where basically anything goes as long as it's set in another universe, which is kind of a blessing and a curse for Marvel all at the same time. At least Spider-May is paired up against Leapfrog, because if she successfully took down any truly reputable villain with her dough lasso, I think I'd have lost a decent chunk of respect for Marvel, if I'm being completely honest. At number 1 is the Larval Earth universe. In this world, all the Marvel heroes and villains alike have evolved into cute and cuddly animals, with characters like Daredevil, Nick Fury, and the Agents of Sheep. There's no wonder why this universe exists as a one-off, although it may have been just weird enough that it went full circle and became kind of iconic. I mean, the ironically popular Spider-Ham, aka Peter Porker, also comes out of this alternate universe, so there's that. Larval Earth is probably the weirdest universe to actually be considered part of the official Marvel canon, and with villains like Kangaroo the Conqueror, Sand Manatee, and Magsquito, readers are left wondering whether or not this whole multiverse concept is going too far. But personally, I think the odd, fun, and weird universe never hurt nobody. I mean, who could be mad at Black Panda? I mean, that's not much of a stretch considering he's normally named after an animal, right?
Number 10. The Flash. One of the most recognizable superheroes in pop culture, the Flash is perhaps one of the fastest beings in DC Comics. While Barry Allen is the most well-known iteration of the character in the comics, there are many other versions, but Wally West is arguably faster than the former as the Scarlet Speeder. In 2009's The Flash, the Human Race comic series, West's version of the Flash reached something called trans-time velocity, which exceeded any speed theoretically possible in science. As As a speedster, the Flash can easily travel well beyond the speed of light, which gives him the ability to time travel. This makes the character one of the most potent DC superheroes who can manipulate time to his advantage if need be. The ability to do this is indeed extremely powerful, but he isn't the hardest hitter nor the most durable. So while he is worth mentioning, he is not really powerful enough to make it any higher compared to others on this list. Number 9. Martian Manhunter. I think it's incredibly easy to overlook Martian Manhunter's incredible capabilities. Yes, he is more well known for being a telepath and a shapeshifter, but this guy packs a hell of a punch with the Martian abilities of phasing, Martian vision, and density alteration. Now, his probably most powerful form was when he became Furnace, completely negating his weakness for fire. But Furnace was a villain and therefore cannot be on this list. But in DC 1 million, we get a John Johns who leads a war against Darkseid and gets him to surrender to the Source Wall, becoming trapped inside of it. The Source Wall in return gave John one wish. His wish was to become one with Mars, meaning John became a living planet while maintaining his multiversal telepathy and his genius intelligence. We don't get to see much of this version of John, but we can guess a lot of things about this version. Firstly, his weakness to fire is probably non-existent, because I mean, people gotta make fire on the planet, you know? We can probably assume John keeps his other Martian abilities to a degree as well, and there's also the possibility that the passage of time has increased those natural abilities considering he's defeated Darkseid. We can also assume he would now also have the powers that usually come with being a living planet, like weather manipulation and control of the elements. He can control the sands of Mars to an incredible degree too, so there's that as well. Number 8. Power Girl. There have been many versions of Supergirl throughout the years. None were remembered as fondly as Kara Zor-El, the cousin of Superman. While Kal-El was rocketed to Earth as a child from a dying Krypton, Supergirl was sent out from Argo City as a teenager. She became trapped in suspended animation until she finally arrived on Earth, where she soaked up a ton of solar radiation. Now yes, Supergirl is powerful, but there is a more powerful alternate version of her in the form of Power Girl. Power Girl has all the powers and abilities of Kryptonian and is pretty much just like Supergirl, with a major difference being she is older than her counterpart, and therefore Karen Starr, Power Girl, is far more powerful. Over the years she has evolved again and again to fit the continuity, but she's still considered one of the strongest DC superheroes. Power Girl has been able to knock out Superman in just one punch when she was needed to. She can stand up to Supergirl and even Wonder Woman in the heat of combat, and she's even been able to beat up someone as powerful as Darkseid.
At number 7 is Marvel 1602. This is a fun one, but it's definitely quite bizarre at the same time. It might be pretty obvious by the name, but basically, this universe tells the stories of the heroes and villains we know today as if they lived in the 1600s. With Count Otto von Doom ruling a medieval Latveria, heroes like Matthew Murdock, a blind mercenary for hire, and Peter Parquois, an orphan recruited by Sir Nicholas Fury, have to put a stop to him. Another bizarre thing about this world is that mutants aren't seen as superheroes and aren't part of a team called the X-Men, but are instead known as witch breeds, and they are hunted down systematically by anyone who will dare challenge them. It's definitely a fun world to explore, but it sort of gives me the creeps as well. At number 6, we have the Zombieverse. This is one I'm sure many of you are familiar with, as it's become pretty popular over the years. Basically, Earth 2149 is overrun by zombies, and they don't stop short of turning superheroes to the ghoulish side as well as humans. What we end up with is a whole universe with superpowered zombies jumping and flying around, trying to destroy everything in their paths, including their former teammates and lifelong friends. It's a strange place that puts into question the integrity of superpowered beings and sort of tarnishes the dignity of all our favorite heroes all at once. But it's all in good fun in the end, and we get an exciting, gory, and very weird read as a result. At number 5 is the Amalgam universe. This is a strange one because it outlines the event of a what-if scenario where Marvel and DC characters are mashed into hybrids. In Marvel vs. DC number 3, characters from Marvel's Earth 616 and DC's New Earth morph together, leaving us with some pretty cool but ultimately just flat out weird characters, like a Superman Captain America mashup and Iron Man getting a power ring turning him into Iron Lantern. And of course, with these newly powered up Amalgam heroes, there also has to be a mashup version of the two different worlds villains too, right? So we get Thanoside, a very cleverly named mashup of Darkseid and Thanos. What makes this universe so weird is that it's a very rare example of the two comic book companies coming together in unison. And the resulting contents are just as bizarre as this rare partnership is. So there you have it. The Weird World of the Amalgam Universe at number 5. And at number 4 is Weird World. I feel like there's no need to explain why this one ended up on the list given the title. But weirdly enough, Weird World isn't actually that weird, all things considered. Weird enough to make it on this list, but I still feel like they had an opportunity to make a world so weird that they clinched the number 1 spot on this list. But still, it's a weird one. I am tired of saying that word. It's a Marvel universe that features magical creatures like goblins, dragons, and zombies. And there are just perpetual battles going on there between gods representing dark and light. It's hard to tell how it ties in with Marvel superheroes, so in the context of the Marvel Multiverse, it's definitely weird and a bit out of place, but it also just seems like a typical medieval fantasy landscape to me. It's almost weirder that this world doesn't really match its name, but I guess weird is weird.
Number 3. Captain Atom. Nathaniel Atom was transformed into Captain Atom in the 60s after being semi-forced to participate in a potentially fatal experiment sitting at ground zero of a nuclear explosion encased in an alien metal. The explosion didn't kill him though. What it did do was bond the alien metal to his flesh, giving him superpowers and throwing him 20 so years forward into the present day. The alien metal gave him incredible abilities such as flight, matter manipulation, energy manipulation, time manipulation, energy absorption, telepathy, spatial manipulation, quantum manipulation, force field creation, time travel, magic, and mind manipulation, and control of the quantum field. These powers have let him perform some insane feats, like creating a universe within the quantum field and later destroying that universe, fighting Superboy Prime, easily defeating a team composed of multiple versions of Atom, before absorbing them and creating an explosion powerful enough to destroy a universal space-time continuum. He is truly an insanely strong being, and I would be ashamed to not include him on this list. Number 2. The Spectre. One of the most powerful beings in the DC universe is the Spectre. He is the biblical god's spirit of vengeance. He blesses whoever his host is with nearly unlimited magical potential, flight, invisibility, and intangibility. The Spectre can inflict death with a glance, revive dead men, materialize in multiple locations simultaneously. He has molecular reconstruction. He can heal wounds with a touch and can teleport as well as alter his size, implying he has matter manipulation abilities. The power of the Spectre is so great it needs a human host to keep him in check, which doesn't really make sense. Jim Corrigan, Hal Jordan, and Crispus Allen have each taken control of the spirit of vengeance in order to enact their own versions of justice onto the world. One of the Spectre's most impressive physical feats is the fact he could engage the Anti-Monitor in hand-to-hand combat for control of all creation. It's hard to find heroes more powerful than the Spectre, but there is one. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. When I began to look up just what John Osterman, otherwise known as Dr. Manhattan's powers and feats were, well, the list could kinda take up nearly half the length of this video. So let's go through some of them, shall we? After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen, and no longer ages and can regenerate from any injury. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale. He has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium, and can even see alternate futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before his interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52. He obviously has time travel, which he's used to travel back in time and save Jor-El right before Krypton's destruction. John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. Saying he has enhanced senses is kind of an understatement, as he can read atoms, sense tachyons, knew someone didn't have cancer with a glance, and heard a heartbeat from someone else's womb. He can phase through things, create human life, made plants grow, teleports an entire crowd of people away, he has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring and absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is more than a god. Number 10. Gorgon. If you remember the weirdest DC Multiverse superheroes video, which you should check out, I talked about a pastiche of the Incredible Hulk in DC Comics called Big Baby from Earth 8. He was part of a team called the Retaliators, who were supposed to be a joke version of the Avengers. This universe also had a team of villains called the Extremists, and on that team was a Dr. Octopus type character named Gorgon. While Gorgon did utilize technological enhancements, I think his octopus likeness comes in the form of his prehensile hair. The hair tentacles he uses and his role as a scientist mixed with his weight and oddly familiar glasses all come together to really evoke a Dr. Octopus likeness, which is just weird enough to make me double take. He is also familiar enough that I can't really put him any higher on this list, so there's that. Number 9. Dex Star. Or Dexstar, or Dexter, or Dexstar, Dexstarer. Cats can be ruthless, cold, and scary at times, I'll admit that. But while the Red Lantern of Sector 2814, Dexstar, is an irrationally rage-filled kitty, it's all because he loved his owner. Dexstar's origin shows the cat Dexter with his owner when she is attacked by robbers who broke into her home. While Dexter tried his best to scratch the attacker, he ended up ending the life of Dexter's owner. When the police showed up on the scene, Dexter was kicked out into the streets so as to not contaminate the scene. Now, two rascals from the streets found Dexter when he was trying to sleep, put him in a sack, and threw him into a river. Now that is one hell of a sequence of events, and all this happening filled the poor little kitty with enough rage that it caught the attention of Atrocitus, who called out to him and made him a Red Lantern. With this newfound power of the Red Lantern ring, the Rage Kitty exacted his sweet revenge on the hoodlums and flew to say goodbye to his owner one last time, saying, in his little cat language, "I find who hurt you, I kill. I good kitty." I love this cat, but I also wouldn't dare mess with it. Ever. Number 8. Prometheus. Heroes and villains with no powers always seem to be some of the most powerful. It's strange. Take Prometheus. After seeing his criminal parents pass at the hands of police, he vows a vendetta on any form of justice. A vendetta that would push him to be able to defeat the whole Justice League single-handedly. He shot the Martian Manhunter with a dart that turned his power against him and set him on fire. He infected Steel's armor with a computer virus which commanded the suit to damage the Watchtower. He hypnotized the Huntress into unconsciousness. He attacked Green Lantern with a neural chaff that rendered his ring useless. He trapped the Angel Zariel in limbo. He tricked the Flash into believing that he had planted motion-sensitive devices that would explode if the Flash used his powers. And he defeated Batman in hand-to-hand combat. That's probably the most nuts thing on this list. His origin is very similar to Batman's. After his parents were dispatched from the mortal plane, he would travel the globe training and becoming the ultimate combat machine. But he also attended the top universities, learning as much as he could. He eventually sets up a base in the Ghost Zone, and from here, he built an armor that could download information on any opponent's fighting style, kind of reminiscent of Taskmaster's ability. He is kind of crazy capable, and his vendetta on any kind of justice plus his Batman likeness just makes him kind of a little strange to me, but also terrifying. Number 7. Shazam. Billy Batson is just a wee lad who, thanks to the wizard Shazam, could transform into a powerful magical hero named Captain Marvel, or if you prefer, just Shazam. By saying his magic word, he gained an array of attributes including the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Shazam has proven himself to be nearly as strong as Superman, with the two having fought to a draw many times, with Shazam actually having an edge in the form of his magical abilities. Shazam defeated foes as powerful as Black Adam multiple times and went pound for pound, shot for shot with godlike people such as Hercules and the Spectre. And that's before we even get into Jokerized Shazam or even pre-Crisis Shazam, who had basically unlimited strength. Like so much so that he pulled the Earth back into spinning again. I don't know how it stopped spinning, it seems kind of like it would be impossible, but comic books, okay? He's been shown to be as strong enough to move planets and survive nearly the same amount of stuff as Superman, so I'm gonna place him here comfortably. Number 6. Wonder Woman. Gifted with the powers of the gods, Wonder Woman has many of the same abilities Superman possesses, including strength, speed, and durability. However, Wonder Woman's Amazonian training sets her a little apart as an amazing warrior. It's been debated for years whether Diana could beat Superman in a fight, and while she's shown to be capable of hurting him at the least, she doesn't have the same raw amount of power. Instead, Wonder Woman dominates her opponents through a combination of her special abilities, superior tactics, and special equipment given to her by the gods. But she has been elevated beyond this. When Diana was empowered with the World Forge and the anti-crisis energy at the end of Doom War / during Death Metal, she had enough power to shake stars and phase throughout time through sheer strength. She had displayed the ability to shrink an entire planet and was able to link everyone together and restored their memories as one history, as in all of DC's continuity. She has cosmic awareness, she's able to see multiple events during the war against the Batman who laughs at once, as well as precognition and retrocognition. She was crazy powerful for that time. Number 5. Superman Prime. The Kal-El, who lived to the 853rd century, survived as long as he did by literally becoming the living extension of the sun. He left the Earth somewhere in the late 21st century when everyone he cared about died, and traversed the entire DC multiverse, going beyond time and space, and has been said to have reached as far as heaven and hell themselves. He was created by Grant Morrison and Val Semeiks, and first appeared in DC 1,000,000 number 4 in 1998. Now, this version of Superman has pretty much all of the same general powers of his normal self, only Superman Prime remained in Earth's sun for 15,000 years, increasing his abilities to immeasurable levels. He is known to dwarf the might of even the massively powerful Kal Kent, who is himself more powerful than the gravitational pull of a collapsing star and is multiple times faster than the speed of light. But he is still kinda just Superman who can do a hell of a lot by just strengthening the heck out of it. Number 4. ELAINE Belloc. Bet you weren't expecting to see this girl here. But ELAINE Belloc is the successor to the throne of heaven, and that's quite something in my opinion. ELAINE has got the powers of atomic manipulation, magic, immortality, omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. While you may not expect it, she is one of the strongest inhabitants of the DC universe. Compared to other characters on this list, ELAINE is a newer addition to the DC canon, as she first appeared in Lucifer number 4 in September of 2000. But despite that, she has quickly climbed the ranks of DC's most formidable characters, and that's before she gains even more power after Fenrir the Wolf de-lifes her father, effectively making her the ruler of heaven after the presence departs. Since she isn't really a hero and is more kind of just like both good and bad, she does align good more than not, and I found it kind of hard to find a proper place to put her on this list, so I'm gonna go with 4, and we'll suffer the consequences of my decision. Number 3. Monsieur Mallah and the Brain. Monsieur Mallah is described in his wiki as a militant, super intelligent French gorilla. The Brain, on the other hand, is described as a genius French scientist and master criminal who exists as a disembodied brain. So, those two descriptions are interesting enough on their own, but when I tell you the French militant gorilla and the disembodied brain are an item together, I think that just elevates the whole thing to a different level. Together, they are the primary leaders of the Brotherhood of Evil, who were villains to both the Doom Patrol and the Teen Titans. They both appeared in Doom Patrol 86 in 1964. Now, Brain was once a scientist who experimented on the gorilla who would become Mallah, which would increase Mallah's intelligence. An accident injured Ernst, and Mallah had to remove Ernst's brain and place it in a technological holding thingamajig to keep him alive and be able to communicate. The two are almost always together, with Mallah carrying around the brain. Hey look, I don't judge. You find love where you find love, but as a concept for supervillains who lead a team of supervillains, you gotta admit it's pretty odd to say the least. Number 2. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. Let me repeat that for all those in the back who may not have heard. Animal, Vegetable, Mineral, Man. I don't really have a problem with 2/3 of that. I just get really hung up on the vegetable part. Is that weird? Sven Larsson is the man who claims that title. And while it is a completely ridiculous one, it is actually pretty fitting. Sven fell victim to an experiment of his own making, which allows him to transform into any animal, vegetable, or mineral, either partially or fully, although He very obviously likes to do a bit of all three at the same time, which is an odd choice, but hey, I just work here. Animal Vegetable Mineral Man first appeared in Doom Patrol 89 in August 1964, and he is an enemy to the team, which makes sense given their weirdness. But Animal Vegetable Mineral Man here has a vendetta against the Doom Patrol's leader, the Chief, who he believed once stole an invention of his. An invention that, funnily enough, is the only way of stopping Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. But he didn't even do that, so no. Look, it gets weirder and weirder, but I gotta move on. Before I do though, Animal Vegetable Mineral Man. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to get out of my system one more time. Number 1, Mr. Mind. I think anyone who hasn't heard of this villain before would be forgiven. When you think of the most fearsome villains, specifically the villains of Captain Marvel, otherwise known as Shazam, you may not first think about the 7-inch long sentient worm from Venus known as Mr. Mind. This diabolically evil mind-controlling worm, after the events of Infinite Crisis, would cocoon himself and then emerge as a massive monstrosity capable of manipulating reality, consuming universes, and traveling through time and space. He was described as eating years and events from this universe's history, altering the Earth with every flap of his wings. It took a combined effort from Booster Gold, Supernova, and Skeets to defeat Mr. Mind by trapping him inside Skeets' shell, which was fortified by the Suspendium. Then, Booster Gold threw Skeets through time with the help of Supernova to the day he was first discovered on Earth by Dr. Sivana, and then he is trapped in a time loop forever. So they didn't even actually end up ending him. They just trapped him. This all-powerful mind-controlling 7-inch long worm.